Hi, welcome to Miss Richardson's U.S. History 5-minute lectures. This information will be U.S. Notes 2.11, Causes of the Great Depression. It includes information that aligns with this third section of your Unit 2 study guide. Remember, you control this lecture. Pause, write down any questions you have, and rewatch this as often as you need to. And make sure you're using your study guide, Section 3, Unit 2, to help you take notes. Let's go ahead and get started. In our last set of notes, I told you about the stock market crash and how that day, Black Tuesday, is considered the start of the Great Depression. The stock market collapsed, people lost millions of dollars, banks closed, and people lost their life savings. While all of this was awful, it was not actually the cause of the Great Depression. This would not have led to the long-lasting Great Depression if other issues hadn't existed at the time. So we're going to look at these issues, the causes of the Great Depression, in this set of notes. The causes of the Great Depression fit into three categories or three areas. 1, uneven distribution of wealth and income. 2, loss of export sales. And 3, mistakes by the Federal Reserve. We'll look at each of these individually so you understand what each means. So first, uneven distribution of wealth and income. Most Americans could not afford to buy the products they helped to produce. So they made very little while the owners were making these huge profits. Therefore, in order for the workers to buy the goods, they had to buy on credit. You know that buying on credit is a way Americans can buy new goods, but they reached a point where they couldn't afford to buy any more. They had saturated the market. So they couldn't buy more. They had all their money tied up in their payments, and they're paying all their disposable income toward the payments, and they couldn't buy more products without more money. So all these Americans stopped buying new goods. So when nobody was buying new goods, factories had to stop producing those goods, which meant that a lot of them shut down. That meant that more people became unemployed. So those people bought fewer goods. So now fewer people could buy more goods, and so more factories shut down, and you can see this cycle starting to happen. So it just continued and more people became unemployed. So the second cause of the Great Depression was a loss of export sales. This meant that there were fewer foreign companies buying, or countries, foreign buyers, buying American goods. So we're not selling as much to other countries. So we're not selling goods in America, we're not selling to other countries, so our countries were making less money. Then, while this was already happening, the U.S. government passed a tax on imported goods, called the Hawley-Smoot tariff. And the countries who were now taxed at a higher rate, and they didn't want to import into the U.S. So they quit buying so much from the U.S. because they were selling their own products in their countries. They didn't want the competition. So this meant that American companies made even less money. Less money meant fewer workers were needed. Fewer workers meant you close down businesses. That means more unemployment, and you see the downward cycle continuing. And the third cause of the Great Depression was mistakes by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve sets the U.S. monetary policy. They decide how high or how low interest rates are, which impacts borrowing and buying. Interest is the extra money you pay to a company or a person when you borrow money from them. So it's usually a percentage that you're paying, 10% interest, 20% interest. The higher the interest rate, the more you owe. So the Federal Reserve kept interest rates low in the 1920s, which did not curb credit and margin buying and speculation. Low rates encourage risky behavior because people feel like they won't lose too much. Low rates made businesses think the economy was expanding, and they took out more loans, creating more debt. Then, once the Depression started, the Federal Reserve actually raised the interest rates and tightened credit. That meant when people actually needed the money the most, they couldn't afford to buy it because the credit rates were so high, the interest rates were so high. So this action actually made things worse. So while the stock market crash is the event that set off the Great Depression, the three underlying causes that you need to know are the uneven distribution of wealth, the loss of export sales, and mistakes by the Federal Reserve. Those are what really caused the Great Depression. So this is the end of Notes 2.11. Hopefully you learned something, and I'll see you in class.